Hello, comedy geeks. I'm Masavia Greer.
And I'm Mike George. Today on Comedy Anatomy, we have the incredible Neal Brennan.
Neal is a writer, producer, director, and stand-up comic. He's the co-creator of Chappelle's Show and also has one of the best stand-up specials out there called Neal Brennan's Threemics on Netflix. More importantly, he's a great friend who I've known for many years.
Also, we just want to take a moment to thank all our new listeners and subscribers. Comedy Anatomy is growing, and it's all because of you. But if you haven't subscribed to our podcast and our YouTube channel, please do. And if you like it, leave a nice comment and a 5-star rating.
Now enjoy our conversation with the great Neal Brennan.
Dude, thank you so much for doing this. I know you two, go way back.
Yes, 1992.
Yeah, 92. When you, I took over your door job.
Oh right. Yeah. I left in 93.
Yes, 93.
So I must have met you before that, though.
Well, how did you even end up working the door at a comedy club? Especially because at the time you didn't want to be a comedian, is that right?
No, well, I didn't, but my brother did and was. So Kevin Brennan, my brother, was a comedian. So I used to go to clubs with him, like when I was in high school. And so when I went to New York to go to school at NYU, I started working the door at the comedy club through Jason Steinberg, who I met through my brother. And then it's like one of those things of like, I was fucking right. So I'm going to NYU and I'm like, I don't like these film students. Like, they're just fucking assholes. And I was like, the comics that hang out at the Boston The Cellar, like, those guys seem cool. And it was Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., Jon Stewart. It was like, oh, these guys, I didn't know they were going to all like affect the next 25 years of American culture.
Amazing.
More than maybe anyone.
Right.
But I just knew, like, I like that. And Marin and Todd Bear. I mean, there was like David Tell, like a ton of guys.
Incredible.
And Sarah Silverman.
It's funny to think to say, oh, I could hang out with NYU film students or Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, no, I know. But at that point, none of them are making more than 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year.
Right.
I mean, it's not like, say again.
No, you're right.
Crazy. Right. And I promised Mo I wouldn't do this, but I have to tell you, Neal, your special, Threemics, is one of the best.
Masavia, why would you tell him not to say that?
No, but as I didn't. He didn't tell me not to say it, but I basically didn't want to come. You know, when you get in a podcast and people's heads, oh, I love you, you're so great.
Yeah.
I think we were trying not to come across as ass-kissy fake guys who are just going to insincerely tell you how fantastic
not me,
you are.
But you. Yeah, you.
But me. And it wasn't Mo.
Not
Mo. Me.
Only in New York is complimenting someone fake. Like, oh, he's all fake and nice. He's kind and responds to someone's work. It's all fucking phony. I was talking to somebody last night. Somebody was talking about somebody, and they were like, yeah, he thinks I'm just like an LA phony who's just all about showbiz. I'm like, he's a New York guy who comes out here a lot. And I was like, yeah, you're a phony like Richard Pryor, who moved to LA for comedy, and Jerry Seinfeld. You're a fucking total phony, full of shit, bullshit, kind of trying to come to where all the cameras are, the good weather and the sound stages.
Yeah.
Mike's out there with you, man. Mike lives in LA.
You do? All right, good.
Yeah, no, I'm out here. I'm not in New York. No.
Oh, all right.
I've been in LA.
Yeah, you seemed happy.
No, I am happy.
Right.
But so basically, you guys meet, right? How did Chappelle get into the mix? Because Mo was telling me the three of you guys, I mean, talking early days, hung out quite a bit.
Yeah. I knew Dave before I knew Masavia. I knew Dave in 91. No, I knew Dave in 92. So that's when I started really working the door and then dropped out. And we were the only young, that's the other thing that you and Dave went to high school together.
Yeah.
So me, you, Dave, Jay Moore, and Red Johnny the Round Guy were the only guys our age, like just in comedy. That sounds crazy, but we were 18, 19, but it was like our grade and then like Jon
I didn't
Stewart,
realize those guys were
Louis.
so much older, like maybe 10 years older. I didn't realize Jon Stewart.
But by the way, I don't even think they were that much older. They were just, I think when the difference between 19 and 27 is significant.
Yeah, it's really true. When someone's 45 and 50, not a huge leap, but 19 to 25, that the 25-year-old seems like an old man.
Yeah, I think even Louis was a little older than us, but he was kind of on his own planet. So
I guess that business too will make you a little older, seem more mature, because you're making these decisions, right?
Yeah.
You may have signed a deal and you're like 21 and you just seem like an older person, because you have to.
I remember you couldn't have told me that Louis C.K. and Dave Chappelle weren't millionaires.
Right.
Because they wrote for Caroline's Comedy Hour.
They seem like stars, right? At the time.
Jon Stewart wrote with them. Richard Jeni was the host. John, Louis, and Attell were the writers, and I just remember going like, "Oh, they're making $1 million," and going to a taping of Caroline's Comedy Hour in the early '90s, which was on A&E.
Yeah, I remember.
It was. I talk to people about this sometimes from that time. Showbiz was so forbidding. It was like how I remember Chris Rock used to wear a Beverly Hills Cop 2 jacket, and I would see it and be like, "How the fuck were you in a movie?" Like, how did you get into a movie?
Yeah.
I couldn't even, it was unfathomable.
Didn't it seem untouchable? It was like
I remember going to Caroline's Comedy Hour taping. It was like going to like see the Rockettes in 1955. It felt like the glamour and lights. They had people that hang on. It was.
Well, being around anyone back then, like you're saying, it felt like rarefied air. You're around someone who's in the business. They know something you don't, some magic key, or who knows, or they were born into it. It wasn't like anyone could do it. And
this is like a crazy full circle story. But when Dave did Arsenio.
Oh, I remember that.
Dave Chappelle did Arsenio. I didn't even know that.
Dave did Arsenio 4 or 5 times. And by the way, fucking murdered.
Yes.
Not only did he murder, in the first time, he took his jacket off in the middle of the set and put it on the stand. Like, who the fuck? What? Anyhow, so I used to get, again, that's one of those things where I watched Arsenio in high school. Then someone I know does it. Then I used to go to tapings with Dave. Me and Dave went to the taping. I say it like me and Dave were equal. We were not equal. He let me go with them.
Oh, so at that time you were just friends?
They kind of wanted him there. They had no. I was like invisible, right? But we went there when the Hughes brothers were doing press for Menace to Society.
Oh, wow! Cool. Remember that, Neal.
So now, what's crazy is you're at a taping and it's like the Arsenio Hall show, and I met Bill Cosby there. Had a conversation with him. But like just hugging the wall, being afraid. What's crazy is Arsenio kind of brags about it now. Like Dave and Neal used to come to tapings of my show. It's like this is too much.
Yeah.
Like this is too fucking much. You
wanted to be a writer, right? At the time.
Yeah, I did one open mic at the Boston and it was a nightmare. Then I didn't do it again until 90, and then I did it once in 97 and it went well. And then I was always like, no, I shouldn't.
Well, why is it? Honestly, your special, that special from 2017 is one of the best in years. Honestly, I know at Netflix there's a special every week, literally had a special every week. And yours is just another level in so many ways. And it's so funny to me that you can do that, but yet in the beginning, you weren't even thinking of how you were looking at the stage going,
well,
for me.
The reason the special's good is because, the reason the special's good is because I'm not an amazing performer. So I had to, like, Dave's a fucking magnet. Dave's a charisma machine, and I'm sure he was. It's like people say, like Patton Oswalt said, no one's good And he's like, no one's good the first time they do stand-up. And then he did it on an interview. He goes, actually, you know what? I saw Dave the first time he went on, and he was great. So he's a charisma machine. I'm not. And again, I'm not only am I not a charisma machine, the guys around are Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., Jon Stewart, Ray Romano. Like, so you don't go, fucking, I can do that. Like, there wasn't a lot. Sarah Silverman. I always forget Sarah.
That's true. You're seeing the best of the best.
Yeah, it was a pretty fast heat that I was looking at. Like, I should run track.
Right.
So I was never like a, charisma machine, magnetic performer, but I could always generate jokes and be funny in conversation. And honestly, I love being a writer. Like, the first time I was in a writer's room, I was like, these motherfuckers are like my people. Because they're funny. They're funny people without too much of the performer antagonism and like natural resentments and competitiveness. And they are, but they just kind of they're just more morose, so you don't feel it.
It's amazing that you knew at 19 or 20 that you were, as you're putting it, not a charisma machine. I mean, how do you know?
I didn't like know it. It was also, I would trick myself I would talk myself out of it. You know what I mean? Like, I would go like, well, I shouldn't. They're with them load those hams,
you're doing the meat puppet thing where it's like, I'm behind the scenes guy. I'm gonna.
Yeah. But I wasn't even.
You always had charisma though. But you were very quiet. I never saw you as a stand-up back then. Like,
I know.
You weren't like a show hand. You weren't like always on. You weren't, that's the way those guys were, I think, back then.
Yeah. So I was never, that's my calling. And then I did it a little bit, did it once in 92, once in 97. And then around 2002, I started to like,
wow.
And I did it a little bit from like 2002 and 3. But it was during the Chappelle show, so it wasn't like I had fucking no time. And I realized, like, you're not really doing it unless you do it every night.
I always want to know, Neal, too, what was that process like with the Chappelle show? Because when did that, like, how did that come to mind?
Basically, I mean, so me and Dave do Half Baked, and didn't do well. And I mean, it did well on video, but that doesn't count.
It's a cult. It's for sure.
Yeah, which they don't count. They now, like, whatever. So I did well on video, and we were a little like, and then so we had to do this thing, and we had to do that script, and then we had a few more things we were supposed to write. There was a slavery movie that we were supposed to write with Tony Woods, and like, so it just sucked because I'm basically like in charge of, like, we agreed to write it with Tony, and then
this is the slave movie, or is this? Okay.
And then Dave's dad is dying, literally dying. The movie Half Baked come out in like January 98, shits the bed ish. Dave's dad starts dying he's dying kind of the whole time, but it gets really bad in the summer of 98. And so I had to like I had to put the pressure on to write this slave movie, and it was just a bad position.
Yeah, that's not a win.
I was just in a bad position, and I was putting I was a fucking horrible friend. I would have had to just say, we can't do this, or I can't do this, or he can. It was
there's a level of maturity you maybe don't have at that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm 24, so we kind of had it that we had bad. I left a bad taste in his mouth, and there was shit about him that left a bad taste in my mouth, and which you're not allowed to say anymore. That you had a problem with Dave Chappelle, a personal problem, but so we just didn't talk. We get whatever. It's just sort of the connection wasn't good.
Right.
Anyway, 2001, 2, we start to kind of talk again, and he says, he's like, we should do Playboy After Dark, which was a show from the 60s, where Hugh Hefner It was just like almost structureless. It looked like it was shot in a living room. I think Dave wanted to do it because Hugh Hefner smoked on the show.
Right.
And yeah. So then we just realized like we should just do a bunch of sketches. I had the Kinkos, Dave had bloopers from Roots, and maybe I don't remember what else we had in that sketch. And reparations, maybe the reparations like news broadcast. Okay. So that became the pilot. Those 3 sketches or 4 sketches became the pilot. And then we did a taping where like he came out, there was a crowd and he was like doing this and he just walked through the studio audience out the door and then just like, then was like actually sick of that with all the fucking whoop-de-whoop.
Yeah.
And so then we did it that way. And then we realized like, we kind of need an audience because you don't want to do a sketch show without laughs. I don't, at least.
How did you guys write? Was every episode? How many writers did you have? And
we didn't really have any like he and I would write the show that we took outside pitches. So Kurt Metzger got a sketch on. It was like it was a Star Wars sex scandal. And Brian Tucker, who writes Saturday Night Live now, pitched Racial Draft and Player Haters Ball. So, but everything else was me or him. And the other thing is like, as much as with sketches, like we wrote the Racial Draft in like fucking 40 minutes. It's like, once you have the idea, it's like you just go.
And I mean, you came up with that, the white black.
That was Dave. That was based on Dave's grandfather.
Wow, that's fucking.
Yeah, that shit was like
based on his grandfather. His grandfather was that guy.
His grandfather was, well, I mean, yeah, he was a blind white supremacist. No, his grandfather was light-skinned and blind. And apparently the day Martin Luther King got shot, he was on the bus and a bunch of black dudes surrounded him and like, what the fuck you doing on this bus, cracker? And Dave's grandfather had the thought like, oh, that cracker's in trouble. Meanwhile, they were talking to him.
Oh my God.
And so it was like, Dave had that idea because he tried to pitch it. He told me he pitched it to somebody, but he didn't explain why the guy didn't know he was blind. So the guy didn't know he was black. He never explained that part of the pitch.
Nice.
So people were like, what? It didn't make any sense. And then I was like, oh, like
lights went out.
There. The other thing I should mention is, you wouldn't know it now, but like Dave's, because of Half Baked and because of kind of racism, like we pitched at HBO before we pitched at Comedy Central, and like
really?
They were not interested. So we like trudged up. It's in that Mark Twain speech I gave. So they said, why do we need you when we have Chris Rock? It's like, oh, that's pretty racist.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have Bill Maher and Dennis Miller. They don't seem similar to you.
The other thing you said, which is funny, is you said, well, we wrote it in 40 minutes. That's it. Executing these sketches, and maybe not for you, but that's a whole nother animal to make great. It's how many times has everyone laughed in a room, but then you actually execute it and it sucks. And that just didn't seem like a problem for you guys.
I mean, not in the stuff that aired, but there's shit that didn't work. I mean, there's plenty of shit that didn't work. That I guess is talent. I don't know. I mean, I love sketch. Like Dave used to call me SNL historian Neal Brennan. So like I know Ben Stiller's show, I used to go to Mr. Show tapings. Like I really love sketches. So
you were familiar with it already. I mean, your budget was small too, right? I mean, you didn't have such a big budget.
Yeah, it wasn't much. It was probably $750 an episode or $900 or something. Like not, which sounds like a lot, but now most like even cable shows are like probably 1.3.
Yeah, and this is also 15 years ago. So then that obviously propelled you to a new level, the Chappelle show.
Yes, which I more or less squandered.
You squandered?
Well, doing a big TV show is a bit like being a good college basketball player. Like you get drafted, they want to draft you. So I got drafted into doing stuff, but I just didn't really want to do much of it. And the thing I ended up doing was a Jeremy Piven movie called The Goods, which Will Ferrell and Adam McKay produced. So I thought like, oh, that'll be fun to work with those guys because because Talladega Nights had just come out and I knew Will a little. So I was like, that'll be fun. And it just wasn't that fun or good. And, I didn't write it, but guess what? Got all the blame. So,
you directed that, right?
Yeah, I directed it. So, and it's funny, but doesn't matter. So therefore it's like you get stigmatized with like, you can't do anything.
It's hard to believe. And I know it's true, but it's hard to believe that you would have the success with the Chappelle Show and everything else you've done. You do one movie and you truly feel like that movie that didn't work in the eyes of whoever.
Yeah. It didn't do well, yeah, but
it actually affects your career.
I mean, not only does it affect your career, like I said, Dave had done Half Baked and his first HBO special, and HBO still didn't want the sketch show.
Right.
Because they were like, no, there can only be one. Like out here, there are 30 talented directors, full stop. And everybody else is like, we'll see, maybe we'll give you a shot. So, but at that point I'd started doing stand-up in earnest and starting in 2007 and was kind of just getting good, better. So I was like, fuck, I'll just do that mostly.
So
I would do pilots a little bit.
That's what propelled you into the movie, because you talk about in Three Mics when you were saying, which I loved, why I like Three Mics so much is the stand-up part is fantastic. And I think the one-liners are fantastic, but the one-man show of it, obviously, which is, I'm sure your intent is what gave it levels, what gave it texture, made it something more than just, oh yeah, I'm a funny guy with great jokes. You brought it to something else, which in turn, this is my thesis on your thing, helped all the other sections, helped.
Yeah. It informed it. Well, that's a whole other, the reason I did it that way was because, like I said, you're not just going to watch a charisma machine. Like, it's like Joe Coy, you just want to see him talk. There's just a few people that you just want to see him talk. Dave, and there's Burr. I mean, like great comedians, Patrice. So you'll listen to me talk, but part of it is that I think there was like a misunderstanding about me because of the way the show ended, I seemed racist.
You mean on the Chappelle Show?
Right, but I'm sure Masavia could speak to it a little more. Like if there's a skirmish, it wasn't a skirmish. But if Dave says in an interview that somebody on set didn't laugh the way he liked, I'm the only white person people have any conception of on the show.
Right.
So there's a portion of the audience that's like, wait a minute, aren't you the guy? Meanwhile, I'm not, but
well, you don't think you would have noticed that his writing partner was this outright racist? I mean, it doesn't.
Well, of course.
You know what I mean? Like the whole time.
Wait a minute, Mike. You're doing follow-ups, Mike. You're doing follow-ups. That's where you're missing out. Just go with the hottest, fastest take. So I wanted people to have some sense of, and also why am I not a charisma machine? I just wanted to say like, hey, not a charisma machine, but here's why. And it's pretty interesting or whatever.
Oh, you were so honest.
Exactly.
So raw.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
But it was great because it wasn't sometimes the one-man show portion can be a little self-indulgent, or you really took all that out of it. There was nothing in there.
I tried to,
because when someone says, come to my one-man show, basically they're saying, come to my therapy session, right? Come, instead of sitting with me and my therapist, you'll just watch me from a chair.
Speaking of which.
What?
Oh.
Mike Birbiglia.
Oh, God. Mike Birbiglia is calling you. What are you making the worst face? Oh.
It's like fucking. So you said it's like saying fucking saying Beetlejuice. You say self-indulgent 3 times, and Mike Birbiglia calls you. Yeah. I'm kidding. And Mike Birbiglia is the reason I did Three Mics. Basically.
Oh, is he really?
Like his first special, my girlfriend's boyfriend, is like, I saw that and I was like, fucking really good.
Yeah. But you talked about in the special not hiding behind other people anymore, whether it's Dave or whoever. And
yeah.
was that being pushed after the movie for whatever the industry thought and realizing?
Well, it was like the thing somebody asked me like, what would be my arc in like life or something? And the arc would be probably in like a movie. It would be like a guy who wants to be on a team, but has to do it by himself. You know what I mean? Like, like I want that, but like, no, what you need is to get your own pillar,
your own voice, right?
Yeah, and your own voice, your own career, your own. That way, I don't have to worry about we got to write, and your dad's just all that shit. It's just like
yeah.
Well, I mean, Neal, do you feel more comfortable with your place in stand-up now? I mean, like, I see a projection of just greatness from there. I mean, as far as being one of the best stand-ups, is that one of your goals?
To me, there's a group of guys above me that are separated by performance, meaning Chris, Dave, Burr, Jim Jeffries, Louie. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. Schumer, Aziz, Sarah. Who else? Who else does arenas? Mulaney.
The list goes on, but let's say Dave Chappelle.
Okay. So there's a list of people that I think are a little like their fastball's faster than mine, right?
Right.
So, but I don't. But so it's like I have a new show that I'm going to do once we can't infect each other with nanoparticles. Yeah, I hope I can. I don't think I'll ever get to that level of fame, but I do know that what I did was impossible. Meaning, going from doing a TV show with somebody, it being what it became. He and I have a public thing. I'm not a comedian. Then I start doing stand-up and get good at it, get good enough to be on Netflix, and then get a stand-up special that people hold up as whatever.
Did you really do those? When you said you started open mics, was that real? When you said that in your special, did you really?
Yeah, I'll do open mics today. I don't give a shit. I mean, meaning like I didn't sign up. I don't think, but like 2007 in LA. The Brew Co. and shit. I couldn't park at the Comedy Store. Like, already did Chappelle Show. Wasn't allowed to park at the Comedy Store. Wasn't passed.
Isn't that amazing?
None of that. MC'd at the Laugh Factory.
It's so funny because we have a lot of young people listening too, and you think that you get to this level, and then when you're at that level, shit's just going to work out. Something that you said that I thought was so impactful was you didn't make a big issue out of it in the special, and for very good reason. It's a stand-up special, but you talked about. After having with Mike Shear, you guys sold a show, and then after you sold it, I'm paraphrasing, so tell me if I'm wrong, but you realized this is not going to make you happy. This is not the Shangri-La.
It just didn't. That didn't work. Like that, it just didn't work.
Well,
that it's like trying different shit and going like, fuck, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work.
Yeah, but like you're one of the people who got to actually realize it doesn't work. So many people, even getting there is not the answer to life. It's a great career and it's awesome. I mean, again, I haven't had your success, but I just don't think anything like that is the key. And I love that you touched on that in the special.
Yeah, who was I saying? There's a part of me that's like, when they say like on your deathbed, you won't think about work. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me that's like, I did some pretty cool shit at work. Like I did some pretty meaningful shit to me at work.
Right. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, and it doesn't mean I'm not talking about the result is cool, obviously, but the connection is the thing. I'm very glad Chappelle Show was what it is. Right. But at the same time, like thinking about writing The Blind White Supremacist, like that, you know what I mean? Like that means as much to me. Sorry. Right. Like
coming up with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
coming up with that.
I might think about that toward the end.
Right.
But it's not because I did it. It's not because like you fucking look at this.
Yeah, you're not holding.
It's because I met a guy, and we were, you know what I mean? It's like because of our friendship.
But that's you're talking about the relationships, right? I mean, I just talked to so many people, and there's this moving goalpost, right? You get one level of success, you want the next, and the goalpost just keeps moving. And then finding some semblance of self is so important. And I do feel, I mean, maybe I read too much into your show, but I felt like that's what you
might give it a rest. Mike, we get it.
I like the show. What do you find?
No, I mean, that is part of the show. Part of the show is like the like not getting the answer from achievement. But at the same time, I don't want to shit on achievement. It's like it did probably improve my mood, but it wasn't the Chappelle Show achievement. It was the Three Mics achievement that actually improved my mood probably 10% every day.
I can see that.
Every day since it landed, I've been in a 10% better mood.
Why is that? What's different about that than say the Chappelle Show for you? Because
there's literally I couldn't talk myself out of it. Meaning Chappelle Show, I can go, you're writing with I mean, trust me, the world is pretty good about reminding me how funny Dave is. It's like fucking, I mean, you know, again, that's another thing Masavia or Mike, I don't know, you sound like probably a defender, but Masavia, I'm sure you've heard plenty of people roll their eyes about a partnership between me and Dave. Do you know what I mean? Like without, I'm not saying name names. I'm just saying like fucking, when we wrote Half Baked, I told Dave, I go, I'm going to get all the credit in showbiz. You're going to get all the credit in comedy. Like I could already see that that's what was going to happen, which is why we had a deal not to split jokes up, who wrote what, because no one's asking for good reasons.
Right.
But
that was totally you too, man. Watching this, I mean, like I told you, man, I was moved, you know.
Yeah.
And because of the history in this business, but the people, I mean, it's very close. And I never really talk about personal things. I mean, I've talked to Mike because Mike is my co-host and we're good friends. But like, I can't go around doting about why, and I know why, because some people are assholes. But I can't say that because people will be like, "Oh, you're just jealous," or
right.
You what are you talking about? So it's like I just keep it to myself. But I'm just happy to be able to talk to you and see where you are as a stand-up. I'm so fucking impressed, man. It's
thanks, man.
I'm blown away because you didn't touch any of that back then. You weren't talking about stand-up. I didn't know that. But to see it now is fucking unbelievable. No,
you know what was cool, Mo? Was somebody told me that before he died, Patrice said I was one of his favorite comics. And he died fucking 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like that was when I heard that, because he's one of the only people who ever called me to tell me he thought I was funny. Wow. So like people would yell that I wasn't good at. They would yell at me that I wasn't good.
At what point in your career? I mean, in the night, like before you were even doing stand-up, or when you started?
No. This is probably 2009.
Okay, so
I'd been doing it maybe 3 or 4 years. There's a weird thing. There's like I get it. It's bullshit, but I get it because Dave is so charismatic and so iconic at this point, and he's one of the few people that actually is. I think people resent me. They think I'm taking credit, and I'm like, I'm not taking. It's in my lap. I'm not taking shit.
Yeah, living life.
So what am I? Who am I taking credit? He called me to do the TV show. He called me.
Right. Who are these people, really?
I mean, Masavia can tell you after the taping, but I'm saying like, there's just a general feeling of like a fucking doorman or some fucking +1, a tag along, a fucking posse cut.
It's so funny, dude, because for me, I've known of you for a long time. I'm not in that circle you're in, and I never thought of you that way. And I'm not saying that as some sort of compliment. I believe that. Yeah, I never said, oh, he's just, I knew you created the show. And then when you know, before I even knew Mo, I saw your special, and I didn't go, oh, this fucking guy's trying to doorman. I didn't know any of that. So it's sort of, and I just thought,
I mean, what I
did think,
you know what Neal means though, in the insider part of it.
Exactly. That's what I think it is. It's an insider, but it's not
our fellow comedians. It's our fellow comedians.
That's what guys. Yeah. I think you're exactly right, Mo. I think it's in your circle, but the wider world does not. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the wider world, I'm like, I'm still pretty obscure, that's fine. I get. It's the thing within comedy that I find so odd. It's like there's a certain like Mark Norman, guys like that, where they're like, you're fucking got a cool career and funny and write jokes. Like, and then there's like Seinfeld and people like that like me. Mm-hmm. But then there's like the middle ground where they're just like, fuck you. I'm like,
okay. You hit people by storm. You surprise motherfuckers.
Dude, yeah, but that's but I would say, like, watch the joke. Like, what the fuck? I don't see how you watch that and be like, this guy's this guy's doing it wrong, or you know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm trying to do good jokes I'm trying to do high level of difficulty jokes about interesting subjects.
Right.
And then make a good show, or make like a stage show around it. There's some people that just won't like it, but there's a weird bias against me, like I said, because I think people think I'm taking something from Dave, and I'm not. It's like I'm not. It's like people always go, "Hey, you helped do Chappelle Show." I go, "No, I didn't help."
You helped do Chappelle Show.
I didn't help.
You got coffee. Yeah. Dave was on set on time. That's what you get from people.
Yeah. Oh, I get that more than you did it.
Okay.
I mean, like Munoz, like you help. The fuck are you talking about?
You helped. Is that your introduction? Someone said, "This is Neal. He helped Dave."
It's not. You think I'm kidding? That's more common than what you are. Yeah. Like whatever, like your category is so much more common than this fucking guy helped. And then, so it's like, if I help, so it's like I helped do a great show, and then I helped do by myself another stage show, a great stand-up show. So I am a pretty good helper.
You know, this is why we wanted to talk to you too, because it's like people don't understand the work and the sweat that goes behind to get to where.
Yeah, like I don't even the thing of like, so 2007, it's like 14 years ago now. Special comes out. Threemics came out after I've been doing it 10 years, and which is oddly enough when people say it takes like a decade to get good. Which is usually fine because you don't start when you're fucking 33, or however old I was. So I don't mind. I didn't mind the hustle part of it. I was talking to somebody the other night, and I had the thought. I said, like, this doing a spot at a shithole. Literally in California, we do shows in yards. Masavia, a yard is a patch of grass behind someone's house. So we do it in yards. That means as much to me as a Netflix theater. Not because I'm special or cool or doing it. I'm so about it. It's the same mechanism.
Yeah, Mike.
It's the exact same mechanism. It's like you write a joke and you see if it works.
Yeah.
I was never like I like fucking opened for I remember opening for John Caparulo, a comic out here in Vegas. And I'm like a rich show creator, and I still like got him drinks in Vegas. Right. I just didn't mind. Meaning I like brought him Coke. Like I just like some middle guys. I was middle. So I did middle guys.
That never changed, yo. You know, that part of your quality. I remember calling you some years ago, and it wasn't like, oh, I have to wait 10 weeks for you to call back. You just hit me right back. And I was like, wow, you know.
I know you. That's the thing of like Neal's cocky. Like, okay. If I'm anything, I'm defensive about people saying I helped. So then I get defensive like motherfucker, and I seem cocky because I'm kind of rebuking the other narrative, but
Right, you're being protected. Well, you did a lot of work, and you want to make sure.
Yeah.
That's only fair. One thing that I thought was great about your comedy is you're such a craftsman. The way you understand stand up, the way you broke out Three Mics. And honestly, I actually learned. I was like, okay, so that's a one-man show, and that's stand-up. Like, because normally it's either intermixed or whatever, but the way you separate it, it's such fucking craft. And is that what you're saying?
Well, that's where like not being a easy performer comes in. Cause I know like me and Seth Meyers are super close, and we've been friends for 17 years, and he's like, whenever he's written his way into a career, because he is more charismatic than me, but he was in sketches against Bill Hader, Andy Samberg, Will Forte, Amy Poehler, Kristen Wiig. Should I go on?
Right.
He's in sixth place.
Right.
And he figured out a way to like write his way into. He became the head writer, and then became update host, and then became late night host by basically writing and producing.
Wow.
So that I knew, like, because I did a Comedy Central special that's got a lot of fucking great jokes in it. Nobody really cared. So I was like, I got to figure out a way to make it more something.
I mean, I think you're a little hard on yourself on the charisma.
No, I'm
not saying you're feeling sorry.
I don't believe any of this about myself, but I can sort of smell. I can tell what. Sometimes I'll watch myself and I'll be like, "Why do you look like you have a headache?" And you need to contextualize why you're like that. Talk about depression, talk about pain, talk about emotions, and then the next one, I don't have to do any of that shit.
How did you put that together? How do you do a show like that up until the Netflix special? Are you at the Improv doing the depression?
I had the idea. I did it on that show, Comedy Meltdown. I did like a 6-minute version of it. Like, I just tried it and it worked. So I was like, all right, I think I can scale that out, and kind of scaled it out and figured, I mean, the sort of the ethos of the middle mic was like kind of the best. I don't know if you've ever been to a 12-step meeting, but people do shares where they just talk,
Yeah,
they kind of spill their shit, and it's the most riveting thing you've ever seen in your life. So it was like, I was trying to figure out a way to do that, kind of telling myself about stuff, or not telling myself, because it wasn't like I killed a hooker. It's just more like,
personal insight.
And
really share.
Yeah. I don't have like
Kevin hates you, right, Neal?
Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Kevin, your brother Kevin hates you.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's a good example of.
Yeah, he hates, because Neal is
like, we're not joking. Your brother really hates you.
Yeah.
Neal is everything he wanted to. Neal is everything Kevin started first, wanted to be.
Yeah, like the thing I was telling people, it's like, imagine you're a comedian and you bring your brother up, and then he works the door to comedy club that you basically made happen, and then he does like a movie that's pretty popular, and then he does a TV show that's insanely popular, and at that point you'd be like, this is getting to be a little much. And then he becomes a comedian and is good at it and has a good Netflix special. You'd be like, oh, I have to do a podcast where I shit on you now.
Okay.
I'm not saying I agree with it, but to quote Chris Rock, I'm not saying he should have done it, but I understand.
Yeah, I get it, I guess. Yeah, your honesty, man. Is that where you got a lot of it, from 12-step meetings? Because your self-awareness is so strong.
It's it was kind of the inspiration. It's not like I adapted shares of mine to the stage, but it was like, I don't even go to AA, but like, yeah, like, that was sort of the template. Like, whenever people from 12-step programs kind of wink at me, like, I know what that middle mic was.
Well, the thing is, to me, it's not just about the stand-up. You are a very self-aware person. I mean, at least you came across that way. It's you.
I mean, that's the thing is you're not gonna. Part of it's like it's like the swift boating myself, or like the end of 8 miling myself, or whatever. It's like you're not gonna. It's like I can say to Masavia, like, this is what certain comics think of me. And he's like, yep. I'm not like I know it. It's like I don't even hear it, and I know it.
But it's an envy I would love to have, because it's like you fucking did it the way you want to do it. I like that shit.
Yeah, well, no, it's a good. I mean, at a certain point, they don't. It's like it's like I used to tell people. It's like I used to listen to people say DiCaprio was gay for years. Just dudes are just mad.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's it. Well, what made you decide to stick with stand-up? Because from a financial standpoint, let's go before Three Mics, you could have said, I'm going to keep trying to develop a show that's going to be the next big show as a showrunner. I just want to make money, because getting drinks for some guy in Vegas as a middler,
I'd rather do that than
right. But why? But why? What made you think this feels better to me than being on a pitch on a lot?
You ever been on a pitch? It's just sterile and fucking. You're basically casting your lot. It's up to some guy or lady who doesn't know anything. So right. I'd rather just try it with an audience. I mean, that's literally what made me do stand up in 2002 or whatever. It's like I'd written some movies with Mike Schur, and they were like funny and just didn't get made. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm funny. People would talk down to me like in like, and I'd be like, I don't know. I think I'm funny.
People would explain comedy to you.
I mean, dude, you have no idea. Like, I just be like, okay, but I really think I'm pretty funny. Like walking around, I'll say stuff to, doormen, friends.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Did you give up on that? I want to make movies. I want to be were you sort of, it just wasn't going to happen. And it just didn't bother me. Mm-hmm. Just didn't bother me. Doing the work of stand-up is not work. Right. Yeah. No, you can tell you have a real love for it, man.
Yeah.
Look, before we go, if you're talking to a younger you or giving a young person advice coming from,
I mean, the great and horrible part about stand-up is if you look at the top 10 probably most revered and or top grossing comedians, currently they all write the most jokes. So you better write some fucking jokes.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's it. I mean, yeah, like that's the bottom line. It's like, it's hard. It's incredibly hard, but if you get good at it, they'll give you $700 million.
It's the perfect way to end it, man.
Hey, Neal, thank you, brother.
Oh, come on, Mo. No problem, Mo.
Yeah. And when I come to LA, we gotta hang, man.
Done.
Hey, man. Love you, bro.
Love you too, bro. I'll talk to you soon, Mo. Peace, Mike. Nice meeting you.
Great to meet you, man. Absolutely.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Okay, Mo, where can people find out more about us?
Follow us on Instagram at ComedyAnatomy and on Twitter at comedy_anatomy, or at our website at comedyanatomypodcast.com.
And last but not least, please subscribe to Comedy Anatomy on YouTube, where we're streaming the never-before-seen roast of the late legendary comedian PatriceONeal at the Boston Comedy Club in 2003, featuring Rich Voss, Bill Burr, Robert Kelly, and the late great Greg Giraldo, and many more.
Comedy history right there. You can find the link to our YouTube channel on our website and social media.
Thanks for listening.